Alice Fredenham walked onto the stage of Britain's Got Talent in 2013 with a quiet presence that gave little hint of what was about to happen, and within minutes, her performance would place her among the most talked-about contestants in the show's history, drawing rare praise from Simon Cowell and capturing the attention of millions watching at home. But as quickly as she rose into public view, she would later step away from it, leaving behind a question that still lingers years later. How does someone go from that level of recognition to near silence? The answer begins before that moment of recognition, back when Fredenham first tried to break into the industry through The Voice UK, where she performed the jazz standard The Lady is a Tramp, delivering a controlled and stylistic rendition that, despite its quality, failed to turn a single judge's chair, and that quiet rejection marked an early setback in a career that would soon take an unexpected turn. But how did that disappointment lead her toward the opportunity that changed everything? Instead of stepping away, she made a decision that would define her path forward, choosing to audition again, this time in secret, without informing even those closest to her. And when she returned to the stage on Britain's Got Talent, she carried not only her voice but the weight of that earlier rejection, battling a level of stage fright that went far beyond nerves, often leaving her physically shaken before performances. So what happened when she began to sing under that pressure? As the first notes of My Funny Valentine filled the room, the atmosphere shifted almost immediately, her voice steady and restrained, carrying a tone that felt both classic and deeply personal, and by the time she finished, the reaction was unmistakable, with Simon Cowell describing her voice as liquid gold, a phrase that would follow her across headlines and social media as her audition spread rapidly online. But could that kind of instant recognition create expectations that are difficult to meet? In the days that followed, her performance accumulated millions of views, and audiences responded not just to her voice but to her vulnerability, seeing in her a performer who seemed genuine in a way that reality television rarely produces. And with that came a wave of anticipation that she might go on to win the competition or secure a major recording career. But what happens when that level of expectation meets the realities of live competition? When Fredenham returned for the semifinals, the circumstances were notably different, including a last-minute change in song selection that disrupted her preparation. And as she stepped onto the stage, the signs of her earlier anxiety began to reappear, affecting the confidence that had defined her audition. And although her performance retained elements of her signature style, it lacked the same impact, ultimately leading to her elimination. So how did that outcome shape what came next? Despite the setback, interest in her future remained strong, with discussions within the industry suggesting that she could still transition into a recording career, and for a brief period, that possibility seemed realistic when she reportedly entered into a demo arrangement with a major label, offering her the chance to develop material for a potential album. But why did that opportunity fail to translate into a lasting contract? The answer appears to lie in a combination of artistic direction and market expectations, as her vocal style, rooted in traditional jazz and classic standards, did not align easily with the contemporary pop sound dominating the industry at the time. And when the label chose not to move forward, the decision added another layer of disappointment to an already demanding experience, raising a broader question about how well the industry accommodates artists who do not fit its prevailing trends. So, where did that leave her career? Over the following months, her public presence began to diminish, with fewer appearances, limited communication with fans, and eventually the quiet disappearance of her official platforms, creating uncertainty about whether she was stepping back temporarily or leaving the industry altogether. And without clear statements, speculation grew. But what factors may have influenced such a decision? In interviews given after her time on television, Fredenham spoke openly about severe performance anxiety, describing episodes that went beyond typical stage fright and affected her ability to perform consistently. And when combined with the pressures of public scrutiny, constant visibility, and the need for self-promotion in a rapidly changing industry, those challenges may have made sustaining a high-profile career increasingly difficult. But did she attempt to return on her own terms? In the years that followed, she did reappear in a more limited capacity, performing at smaller venues and local events where the environment offered greater control and less pressure, and she also turned to crowdfunding to produce an independent album titled Under the Covers, which stayed true to her original style rather than adapting to mainstream trends, supported by a core group of listeners who remained engaged despite her absence. But could an independent release achieve the reach she once had? Without the backing of a major label or large-scale promotion, the album's distribution remained limited, and while it was well received by those who heard it, it did not reach a wider audience, highlighting the challenges faced by independent artists in gaining visibility, particularly those without a strong online presence or marketing infrastructure. And as time passed, her appearances once again became less frequent, leading to another period of silence. So did that silence mark the end of her career? By the early 2020s, attempts to contact her for updates were unsuccessful, and confirmation eventually came through industry channels that she had stepped away from music and chosen to maintain her privacy, a decision that effectively closed the chapter on any anticipated comeback. And while it was delivered without elaboration, it clarified years of uncertainty surrounding her status. But why does her story continue to resonate? Part of the answer lies in the nature of her initial impact, as her audition remains widely viewed and discussed, often cited as an example of authenticity in a format frequently associated with spectacle. And for many listeners, her voice represents a moment that felt unfiltered and sincere, something that endures even in her absence, raising a final question that has yet to be fully answered. Is it possible that stepping away was not a loss, but a deliberate choice to preserve something more personal than public success?